Hello, and thank you for joining me. This is Stacy Johnson with SF Johnson Consulting and Construction Services, and this is part 2 of our cleaning estimating class, where we are going to discuss now the takeoff, what we're going to look at in the construction set, and what sheets we need to look at, what measurements we need to make, and kind of how to think about a cleaning estimate, a final cleaning estimate. So what is a final cleaning estimate? Well, after the work is done and after all of the finishes are put in, like all of the flooring and all of, if it's specialty cabinets, all the bathroom fixtures have been put in, all the toilet roll cover, all of that stuff has been put in. Usually it's some dust or whatever. And our job as final cleaning people is to make everything nice and neat and beautiful for use. And so what you have to look at in the construction set is, what do I have to clean? What has to be wiped off? What is reasonable to think that I have to clean to make sure I have that covered? And in the first class, we went over the specifications, right? So you look in the specifications under the division given, and that will tell you exactly what they want you to clean. But it's usually all surfaces, everything flat, everything like you would clean your house, no dust, no if there's splatter from paint on windows, get all that off, so just have everything clean. So what you want to do is look in the construction set. So you always want to start with the cover sheet. And when we're talking about final cleaning, really we're talking about cleaning all the finishes, right? And a finish is anything that goes in and on the building once the building's been constructed. So once we built the walls, we put drywall on the walls. Well, we want to make sure the drywall isn't dusty. If it's painted, you want to make sure there's no paint splatter where it should not be. And then again, if it's something like that where there's paint on other paint, that's really not a final cleaning kind of thing, because the painter overspilled the paint, and it's not your job to get paint off of anything other than tile, windows, toilets, stuff it's not supposed, mirrors, stuff it's not supposed to be on. But if you happen to notice that during your construction cleaning, and I would emphasize that if you're a construction cleaning company, because if you are taught by me, you have a very extensive knowledge of the construction field, and you will be able to identify defects in the paint looks wrong, the tiles not laid right. You'll be able to identify that and let somebody know, even though that should already be done prior to you even cleaning, because somebody should have checked that prior to your cleaning. But just keep in mind, those things are things to think about. If you're a good construction cleaning person, you're going to note all those things and let whoever hired you know. Okay, so when we're looking at the construction set, let's look at the construction set. Let me connect that now, and boom, let's go up. There we go. And now, all right, so here is we're going to look at a Levi's it's a remodel somewhere in America. And the first thing you want to do is look at the set, the full set, and what is comprised within the set, all the sheets that are comprised within the set. And remember, you're construction cleaning, so you just need to look at a few of the sheets, and here are the ones you want to look at. Well, you always want to have the cover sheet, right? Because the cover sheet's going to give you all the sheets comprised within the set. But then we want to look at, as a cleaning person, the first thing I notice is door and hardware schedule. That tells you all the doors. So if you have to clean the doors, you'll go there and see how many doors you have to clean. And if the doors have glass on them, you want to make sure you take that out. Okay, now glass is different. How are we going to price it? And that's the third class. Once you have the measurements, how you price each of the items, and preparing a professional estimate with each line item. Meaning, how many, if you have to mop, how many square feet of floor you have to mop. If you clean and carpet, how many cubic yards, and that's usually carpeting in square yards. Carpet is in square yards, tile, everything else is in square feet. If you have to clean windows, right, you have to measure the square feet of the windows times 2, right? Because windows have two sides. So you want to make sure you're able to measure areas, and if you have to clean railing or anything that has a linear amount, a linear measure, you want to make sure you can measure lines. And so in this video, I'm just going to discuss what I'm going to measure, and then I'm going to come back after I measure and show you everything that's been measured and what it looks like. All right, so when we're doing the final cleaning, you want to look at the door schedule. And hardware, is it copper? Do they want you to shine the hardware? That'd be great, because that's extra man hours, right? That takes time to do that stuff. And another thing that takes time is if they have, in this case, this is a Levi's outlet, and they have a lot of specialty fixtures that they hang the pants and stuff on, and shirts and whatever. Well, if you have to clean those, that's extra man hours too that you need to take account of. And again, your specifications should detail that out. Anything with the surface, anything that could have a smudge on it when they put it together or whatever, or you need to exclude it specifically in the estimate, meaning this price I'm giving you doesn't cover that. And if they want you to cover that, and in the one that we're doing, we're not going to cover that because we're kind of late getting it done. So if they want it, we can add that later. But we're going to do the main things in the building. Okay, so doors, that's definitely a main thing. Now, we're going to look at the finish schedule, page A0.A80. Finish schedule is all of the finishes in the project. Finish is anything that goes in and on the building once the building's been constructed. So, a finish is the drywall, the flooring, the paint, basically all of the things that have a surface that you may have to clean. So, let's go to... First, we talked about the doors. So here are the doors. This is a door schedule. And it shows us how many doors we have. 10 doors. Restroom doors, corridor door. BOH is back of house storage door. Tells you the size of the door. So if you're cleaning the door per door, $10, $15, whatever, $5. Or you can measure how many square feet. And remember, a door really has 6 sides, but we're just talking front and back because each of the corners is technically a small, inch or whatever. That's considered a side, top and bottom and the sides and whatever. All right. So here we go. So those are the doors, and then we'll have a sample of each of the doors. So like I said, if you can see that a door has glass, which is not used, in this case, not used, the glass doors, you don't have to worry about separating costs to clean glass, which is cool. All right, so finishes. Okay, so this is the finish schedule, right? The finish schedule is going to give us all of the finishes that are in the full project, and all of the X'd out ones basically means it's not a part of this project. Okay, and so ACT acoustical ceiling tile, that's on the ceiling. I'm not certain that we would have to clean that because when they install it, they kind of protect it. But in the event we have to clean the railings or the grid, that you can always enter a price for that. And again, it should say in the specifications. There's nothing wrong with that. And how do we do that? Well, the ceiling, we have to be able to measure how many square feet of ceiling that is, and so that tells us how many square feet of that we have to measure. And we're going to look at the ceiling, the reflective ceiling plan that shows all the ceiling finishes. That's next. All right, so wall bases, that's a linear amount. So yeah, you probably wipe that down. Again, it all depends on the finish schedule, but we're going to assume that we're going to clean all of that. We have to wipe it down. We have to mop the floors. We have to do all of that. The wood base, now the wood base is painted. So I'm assuming when they paint, it'll be done. It'll be perfect. They should be protecting it. So when we do clean the floor, it isn't affected because if it's painted, that should be the very last thing. But you want to make sure you charge them an amount for an initial check, that you're going to check all of these items, and that cost them something. And if in the event you find that additional stuff needs to be cleaned, this is how much it costs. And so you'll see that in the second last video, second to the last video. Okay, so the finish schedule tells us all the finishes, cork floor, planks supplied, okay, by vendor. Let's see. It doesn't say that they're stained, does it? No. So this is kind of something you probably would have to mop or wipe down, okay, because it doesn't say it's stained. Because if it's stained, of course, it's going to be stained and left and covered and perfect, so nobody steps on it. But if it's not, then you probably got to mop it. Metal, we have to see with storefront metal. So yeah, you might have to wipe down the storefront, which is the front of the building where the front door is, and then all of the walls. We always going to assume that we're going to wipe down the walls just with a light water rag, whatever. Okay, we're always going to assume that. Okay, so, and floor tile, we definitely will assume we have to wipe that down. Okay, so however many square feet that is, and then we will take a look at all of the wood, wherever that is, plywood, veneer, the sheathing. Let's see where that is. Oh, at the storefront. So we probably have to wipe that down. Okay, so this is the finish schedule. So you want to look at the finish schedule because those are the things that you're going to have to wipe off, clean down, whatever. Mop. Now, next, now we have also accessories, right? So accessories for the, in the break room. So the hand sink, yeah, we're gonna wipe down the sinks. We're gonna clean the sinks. We're gonna wipe down the hand dryer. We're going to wipe down all of this stuff. So, yeah, we're going to give them a cost for all of this stuff. In the bathrooms, we're going to wipe down the microwave. We're going to wipe down the stools, the break table, all of this accessories. We're going to wipe all of those down. And see, it tells us how many of them we have. One in one case, and then we have 3 stools, and then we have the lockers. We're going to wipe those down, sanitize them now with COVID. Yeah, everything includes a clean, sanitize and da-da-da, so they can tell that it's been sanitized. Okay, so manager's chair, fixed storage unit. Okay, and within the set of plans, to help you further price it, you'll be able to look at it. It'll give dimensions, and this will take me however amount of time, but if you have a good cost book, it should give you some good basics on how long something takes to clean, wipe down, mop, all that good stuff. So you'll want to look through for stuff like this, depending on the type of project it is, right? This is a Levi's outlet. So yeah, every commercial building's going to have a bathroom. But if it's like a bar or like an Applebee's or even a grocery store or something like that, you're going to have a way more equipment to wipe down. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, finish plan. So here in the finish plan, right, this tells the people that are installing the floor, the base, the wall, the trim, the ceiling. These are the finishes. Okay, and we'll have a basic plan reading for people that do this, so you'll know what you're looking at when you're looking at each of these sheets. Okay, so this plan helps us determine how many square feet, linear feet, right? Because if we have paint on, so this is telling us the floor is whatever CO2-1, and there's a list. The finish schedule gave us the list of what all of these things are, but we know it's wall paint. Okay, so we have to be able to measure from this plan, and if it's wall base, right, it's going around the base of the wall. So we measure how many linear feet, all the way in each room. If it and if it's wall base, then it's wall paint, right? Because it's the same. These are walls, so we have the base at the bottom of the wall, but then we're measuring the length of the wall too. So that'll help us measure if we have to wipe down walls, how many square feet of wall we have to wipe down. Okay, so I'm going to come back with all of the measurements, but you use the finish plan, right, as the measuring tool or as the sheet you use to make your actual measurements. If this is what's on the floor, CT5, okay, CT5, I'll assume it's carpet. Well, I know I got to vacuum that carpet, and so I'm going to measure how many square feet in this room of carpet or vinyl flooring. I know I got to wipe it down, so I'm going to measure how many square feet in each of the rooms. That plank flooring is probably this stuff. And so I'm going to measure how many square feet, because in my cost book it tells me the cost per square foot to clean. And boom, I have an estimate once it looks real nice. Okay, so fixture plan. So these are all the additional fixtures, right, that are going in each of the rooms. And these are tags. Okay, this is basically what they're calling them and where it's going. Back of the house, 19 is something. There's a list of all of the fixtures, right? And so these are shelving, whatever. That looks like a safe. Water fountains, right? Got to wipe those down. Okay, so the finishes and the fixtures all have to be cleaned and wiped down. And then the RCP, you're going to look at that for the ceiling, right? Because not everything in the ceiling needs to be wiped down. So you have to determine what kind of ceiling it is. If it's paint, P1. And this tells you, these boxes are the ceiling tags, right? So it tells you that's gypsum, which is drywall. It says it's new, right? So it's new drywall. So if it looks dusty, if it's like a glossy, whatever, I doubt you got to wipe it down. But you never know. You might have to dust it off. But still, you're going to give them a price for that. And they can determine if that's something that needs to be done. But because your final cleaning, that's going to be part of something that you review to see if something on the ceiling needs to be wiped down. That's just how it goes. And this tells you the height of the ceiling. So the height of the ceiling is 11 feet, 4 inches. So anything over 6 feet, that gives you a clue. You're going to need protective gear and you're going to need a ladder. Okay? Or anything over 6 feet. You're going to need a ladder anyway, but protective gear over 6 feet. If you're climbing ladders, make sure everybody has the proper way to climb ladders, and we'll do that in a different video. Okay, so these are the rooms, what's on the ceiling. So if it is our ACT, it's not painted. So yeah, does the acoustical ceiling tile need to be wiped down? Okay, ceiling, the reflective ceiling plan is something you need to look at as well. And then we have our elevations, right, just to help you out. So these are those little fixtures, that we're going to delete. But this is an elevation view. So if you're standing in the Levi's store, this is what it looks like. So you want to say, you want to wipe down the walls, and then it looks like this is some kind of trim that may need a special kind of wipe down, or maybe they want you to shine it up. Who knows? It depends on the specifications. But at the least, we're going to give them a charge for just lightly wiping down all of the walls. And these are little stools in the, I believe that's what these are, stools in a perimeter fixture, freestanding. And in the set of plans, it's going to tell you exactly what everything is. So you won't have to guess like I'm trying to do. Fitting room. So yeah, do I have to wipe down the stuff in the fitting room? They broke it down. This is what the fitting room looks like. So yeah, you'll have to wipe down, but we have all of the doors already covered. Here are the walls and whatever this is. Is this a carpet? You might have to vacuum, or a special kind of flooring you got to wipe down as opposed to this flooring. But all the flooring you got to wipe down, so it really doesn't make a difference. Okay, benches, whatever. Mirrors in there? Are there mirrors in there? Yeah, let's see. So in the fitting rooms, we have... we have the tile. That's the fixture, finish list of all the flooring, tile, whatever. And in the fitting rooms, we have the doors, 3-way mirrors. So yeah, we got to wipe down those mirrors. So we got to get in there and figure out, and it will say how many square feet of mirror, because mirror is only one side, right? We only charge one side for mirror, but it's still a charge per square foot of mirror to clean. Rear view mirror, clean it. Lounge bench, yeah, you got to wipe it down. Stools, yeah, you wipe it down. All the benches, we're wiping down everything, the hooks and everything. And you see how many you have, and you get price for one, times it by 5. Okay, so final cleaning is not easy. Okay, so this one has a lot of different things for us to. The lounge elevation, so what's in the lounge, a little bench, we got to wipe it down. Okay, so in a nutshell, for your final cleaning, you basically are going to, and here's what the Levi's outlet looks like, right, when it's finished. So as the final cleaning, what do I have to do? I have to make sure all of these shelves and everything are wiped down. Everything, all the flooring is mopped or vacuumed. The bathroom fixtures are clean. Is there anything in the ceiling I need to wipe down? And then the storefront, the very front of the store, do I need to wipe that down? And sanitize everything. There's a specific charge, an additional charge for that now that it's COVID. And that's pretty much what you need to prepare the takeoff, right? So this is just what sheets I need to look at to prepare the measurements, to get all the measurements. And you look at, again, all of, well, we looked at the door schedule, right, to tell us how many doors we have. And in a set of construction documents, you have no more than what's on your list. So they're not going to say, oh, we have 2 D01s. These are all of the doors in the project, even if they're the same type of door. Okay, so you know you have 10 doors, period. Then we went to the finishes. Well, finishes tell us, is it tile, is it carpet, wood, whatever, the flooring, and what we need to prepare as far as to clean it, what we need to have. So we need to see what kind of finishes we have on the ceiling, on the walls, and on the floor. Okay, so we looked at that, and then to do our measurements, we go to the finish schedule. It's pretty much the easiest way to do it because we know where all the finishes are from the finish schedule, and every set has a finish schedule. So you use this plan to make your measurements, and this box tells us what's on the floor, the wall base, the walls themselves. Is there trim in the room? Some say NA, not applicable, but some probably do. I think some of the rooms did have trim. Trim was P3, or meaning they trimmed the room and they painted the trim P3. Okay, because P1, P2, P3, that's a paint. Okay, so we looked at the finishes. That helps us to make our main measurements. And then what other accessories do we have to account for? The things in the bathrooms, extra things in the sales room, all of the fixtures there. Are we responsible for wiping those down once those have been set in place by the accessory contractor, the fixture contractor? Are we responsible for wiping them down? Most likely not. The fixture contractor probably is. That's part of the cost of him installing the fixtures, is to wipe them down as well. But that's something you got to get clear, because in some cases it's a lot of stuff. Okay, and ceiling, we looked at the reflective ceiling plan because we have to at least look at the ceiling to see if there's spider webs or dust or dirt or gouges or imperfections or something that we know that shouldn't be there. Okay, and then all of the little details, fitting rooms, the interior portion, all of that kind of stuff. So in a nutshell, that's what you look at in order to create your takeoff or your measurements. Fancy word for measurements, takeoffs, for a construction cleaning project. Any further questions, reach out to me, Stacy Johnson, at sfjohnsonconsulting.com. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you at the next class.